Welcome back. Today we are launching into a pretty radical deep dive. We're going to crack open the very foundations of Einstein's special relativity.
And not to tear it down, but to re-examine something we all take for granted?
Exactly, what it means to see something, what simultaneity actually is. And the sources we're drawing on today are quite a mix. We've got advanced physics, geometric diagrams, and a layer of Lacanian psychoanalysis on top of it all.
It's a fascinating combination, and the goal here is to expose what these sources call the concealment of process in modern physics. The core idea is that the physical journey of light, the time it takes to get to your eye, is this critical piece of the puzzle that often gets, well, ignored.
So it challenges the whole idea that the observer is this fixed privileged center of the universe.
It completely does.
Okay, so let's set the stage. The sources frame this as a major split between two giants, right? Einstein and his former professor, Hermann Minkowski.
That's right. It's really a story about the tension between pure math and physical reality. The critique of Einstein is that he became, let's say, too head-heavy.
Lost in the equation.
Exactly. He was a master at making the coordinate systems work mathematically, but in doing so, they argue he kind of detached the math from the gritty reality of how you measure things.
And Minkowski.
Minkowski was the opposite. He insisted on connecting the geometry of the world, things like time delay, the observer's own body, to the physical act of measurement.
So if we strip it all down, what's the one basic physical truth that Einstein's model is accused of, of erasing?
It's one word: instantaneous.
Ah.
He treated the world as if information arrives from everywhere all at once, simultaneously, which of course it can't. Light has a speed limit.
He's using this perfect, idealized Cartesian grid where everything just slots into place at the same absolute time.
Correct. And those sources have this brilliant analogy to make this concealment of process really click.
Yeah.
The Starbucks analogy.
Right. I love this one. Let's walk through it because it really clarifies what's being hidden.
Okay, so think of Starbucks HQ. In Einstein's model, the headquarters defines a transaction instantly. A customer buys a coffee at, 5th and Main at exactly 10:00 a.m.
The coordinate is assigned, the event is mapped. Done.
Done. But that's not the physical world, is it?
Not at all.
In reality, there's the actual exchange, the cup, the money, the receipt.
Okay.
This takes a few seconds. And then, crucially, the information about that sale, the data from the register, has to physically travel.
Over the internet, from that store all the way to the central database at HQ.
And that travel time for the data, that's the process being concealed. The mathematical model just pretends the transmission was instantaneous.
So the math is performing a kind of sleight of hand.
It is. The sources argue he used the Lorentz transformation, which is a really powerful mathematical tool, to basically force events into this neat simultaneity plane.
Waving away the travel time.
Exactly. It's a shortcut that buries the most fundamental constraint we know of, the finite speed of light. A fact that, Romer figured out centuries ago just by watching Jupiter's moons.
It makes the coordinate system sound less like a map and more like a tool for denial.
It is, in a way.
Right.
And that denial gets even deeper when you look at the geometry of it, which brings us to the window frame analogy.
Okay, so how does this show up visually?
Well, imagine you're looking at a window. The standard model often uses the window itself, the flat 2D pane of glass, as the coordinate system for everything you see outside.
Oh, I see. So you're plotting the landscape onto the glass.
Yes. And in doing that, you're totally ignoring the physical distance between your eye and the window.
You forget your own depth within the system.
And worse, you forget that the whole room, your eye, the window, is moving. It's all moving through this larger physical medium, which the sources call the electromagnetic field, the EMF. You're pretending you're static.
And that delusion that our immediate view defines all of reality, that's where the psychoanalysis comes in. They call this Einsteinian viewpoint the mirror stage.
This is where it gets really wild. So Lacan's mirror stage is a moment in a baby's development. The infant sees itself in the mirror and for the first time sees a whole coherent image.
Right. Even though its own body feels messy and uncoordinated, it identifies with that perfect, unified reflection.
Precisely. It falls in love with the image of control. And the sources say the Einsteinian observer does the exact same thing. They identify completely with their fixed, neat coordinate system, their mathematical reflection, and forget their own messy, moving physical body.
So the observer is stuck in this kind of narcissistic loop, pretending they're the fixed center and forgetting the real physical constraint.
Which is the electromagnetic field. They're clinging to the fantasy that their map is the territory.
Wow, that's a heavy critique. So, okay, if our immediate vision is that flawed, what's the physical truth? If what we see isn't truly simultaneous, then what is it?
We have to bring the arrival of the information back into the picture. And Minkowski's diagrams do this beautifully. They say, forget the abstract plane for a second. Picture the observer as a stick figure, literally a body, standing in the middle of a ring of LEDs.
It puts the body back in the equation, the point of measurement.
Yes. It forces you to see the light rays as active things coming towards your head.
Yeah.
We have to include the physical measurement act. The only thing that is truly simultaneous in our experience is the light hitting our retina at the exact same instant.
And this is the key. For all that light to arrive at the same time, it must have left the original objects at different times in the past.
That is the absolute core of it. And this is proven with what they call the sphere and cone model.
Okay, break that down.
Imagine your eye is at the dead center of a hollow sphere. Any light that hits your eye at the exact same moment must have bounced off the inner surface of that sphere. That's what you perceive as a simultaneous view.
But the light from different parts of that sphere's surface traveled different distances to get there in the first place.
Exactly. So what you perceive is a flat simultaneous space. That visual field is actually a patchwork, a mosaic.
A mosaic of information from different past moments.
Yes. The farther away the object was, the older the information it's carrying when it finally reaches you.
And the sources give that amazing concrete example with the Norden bomb site numbers. Let's really slow down and visualize this because it's mind-bending.
Okay, so picture a bomber or maybe a drone hovering at an altitude of, say, 1,000 units.
1,000 units straight up. Got it.
Now, it receives light from two ground locations at the very same instant. First, from directly below. The distance is 1,000 units. That light carries information that is 1,000 seconds old.
So it's seeing where that spot on the ground was 1,000 seconds ago.
Right. But now, at that exact same instant, it also gets light from an object off to the side at a 45-degree angle.
Okay.
Because that path is diagonal, the light had to travel farther. It traveled 1,410 units, which means that light is carrying information that is 1,410 seconds old.
Wait, so in the single image the pilot sees, the ground below is from 1,000 seconds ago, and the field off to the side is from 1,410 seconds ago.
Yes. And your brain stitches it all together seamlessly into one single unified image of now.
So space has temporal thickness. My visual field isn't a slice of the present, it's a layer cake of the past.
It's a calculated synchronization of old news. We are constantly seeing the world as this temporally thick mosaic.
That is deeply counterintuitive. So if we can't trust our vision to give us a simultaneous reality, how on earth do we make a correct map? How do we fix this?
We have to switch to what they call information geometry, and the solution is to calculate for that time delay.
Yeah.
This is where the Norden bomb site stops being an analogy for the problem and becomes the model for the solution.
Right, because the bomb site didn't care where the target was.
Not at all. Its whole job was to hit a moving target from a moving plane. To do that, the bombardier had to calculate the bomb's fall time, the plane's speed, and literally throw the bomb to where the target was going to be.
It's deviation shooting, calculating a future intersection point.
Exactly. So for vision, we have to do the same complex calculation but backwards. A retrograde reconstruction.
Okay.
We take the data we get, the direction the light came from, the time it arrived, and we do the inverse calculation. We figure out the distance it traveled, and from that, the time delay.
And that lets you reconstruct the object's true position in the past at the moment the light was actually emitted.
That reconstruction is the reality, not the immediate image.
This feels like a huge shift from the simple model of just observer versus object. We're adding more pieces to the puzzle.
We have to. The sources are insistent on this. We have to move to a four-factor system. You have the uptrain and the downtrain moving objects, and the track, the geometric framework.
And the fourth element.
The fourth and most critical is the electromagnetic field, the EMF.
Okay, hold on. That sounds a lot like the aether, the old concept Einstein famously threw out. Aren't we just bringing back the ghost of the aether?
That's the obvious question, and it's a good one. But they define the EMF differently. It's not some fluid that drags on things. It's the objective physical structure of the universe itself. The C in which light travels at a constant speed, C no matter how you're moving.
So the field is the absolute thing, not the observer.
Exactly. The observer is no longer the center of their own coordinate system. They are just a data receiver moving inside this objective field, subject to its laws.
Which brings it back to Lacan.
It does. They argue that accepting the EMF as the absolute structure is like accepting the symbolic realm, the objective law of the universe.
Yep.
It's the step beyond the narcissistic fantasy that you, the observer, are the one who calls the shots.
So to pull this all together, the fundamental difference is whether you see space as a kind of mathematical framework that warps itself to make sure the observer's view is always correct,
Which is the Einsteinian approach.
or if you see it as a constant physical medium, the EMF, that forces the observer to do the work, to correct for their own motion and for the time delay of information.
It's a move from a subjective, observer-centric physics to an objective, structural physics where the flow of information is key.
And that ultimate goal is what you called information geometry.
It is. You stop defining coordinates by just projecting what you see onto a flat plane. Instead, you define coordinates by calculating and reconstructing them from delayed light data.
So space and time become unified in a new way.
A much more physical way, you define an object's position in space based on its past degree, its time component, which is baked into the very information you receive from it.
Which brings us right back to our own experience right now. If our vision is really this mosaic of past events that our brain is constantly doing these incredible calculations to synchronize, how much of our sense of the present moment is actually just a very convincing, very complex, calculated illusion, something to think about as you move through your own electromagnetic sea?